Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Josh Does Coding. In today's video, we are going to be continuing on with our wave-based survival series. Today, we are going to be setting up health and a health bar for the player. So let's jump straight into it. What we're going to need to do is come to our player blueprint. And we are going to create two new variables. It is going to be max health, which we will turn into a float, and current health. So, we can go ahead and set the default for max health to 100. Of course, you can set that to whatever you want. And on our begin play, I am going to set current health to max health. All right. So, in the last video, we set up our enemies so that they could attack the player. Now, if we open up that blueprint, you can see right now, all we're doing is printing string. But instead, what we can do now is get the player and attack it, deal damage to its health. So we're going to come to our begin play, and we are going to get player character cast to BP underscore, cast to BP underscore third person character. And we can promote this guy to a variable, though I see we actually already do have it as a variable, so we can just ignore that. Apologies. So an attack player, we will get a reference to BP third person character. And what we can do now is actually call stuff from the player. So what we're going to do, if we come over to our third person character, we are going to create a new function. And this function will be take damage. Now, if you remember, in a previous video, we set up an interface that we put on enemies to damage them. Now, the reason we aren't using that interface for the player is because enemies will only ever attack the player. It's a guarantee if they're dealing damage is to the player, so we don't need to use an interface. Whereas the player will be able to deal damage to multiple things, so using an interface is worth it. So for this, we're just going to create a function in the player itself. So for the inputs, we'll create a new input and we'll call it damage. And we'll change this variable to a float. We will then set current health. And we'll say that it is equal to current health minus damage. Now what we're going to say, if our current health is less than or equal to 0, then we want the player to die. Of course, we don't have any respawning logic or anything. So right now we are just going to call destroy actor. Cool, we can compile and save this. Now if we come to our base enemy, from our third person character reference, we can call take damage. There it is. And we're going to go ahead and create a variable on the enemy, and we'll call it attack damage. We'll make this a float. If we can compile, we can set a default value. I'm going to set the value to 1 for now. Of course, I'm going to set it to 0.5 for now. You can obviously set this to whatever you want, and we will change this number based on how it feels when we test it out. We can then drag attack damage into the damage input. And our enemy will now be dealing damage to the player. However, the player currently has no way to know what its health is. So we're going to go ahead and create a health bar. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our health bar. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to our blueprints folder, our player folder, our player UI folder. and we are going to add this health bar to our HUD. So what we can do is search for a progress bar, and we can just drag this in wherever we want the health bar to be. I am going to set the anchor to be bottom center. I am going to rename it to be health bar, and I'll actually say health progress bar just so we know what type of element it is. I will reset the locations. I will set the alignment to 0.5, 0.5, and we are just going to increase the Y by, let's say, negative 100. No, we'll do negative 50. All right. We can also, of course, go ahead and make this longer. So we'll say it's 400. Looks decent to me. It is a bit off-centered, so we will just go like that. All right, so in the details panel, we have this fill color and opacity. So we're just going to change this to red. Of course, you can change this to whatever you want. This will be the color of our health bar. So you see if we fill it up now, it is red. So we are going to need to create logic so that we know what the health bar percentage is. Now, as I mentioned in previous UI videos, we can use the bind function, or we can create an event that we call every time the player takes damage. For now, since we're still in the beginner tutorial stages of this, we are just going to use the bind logic, but in the future, it would be better to use an event so that we aren't checking so often. It's just a bit better for performance. But with that said, we are going to go ahead and use bind for this video. So what we can do is we can get our player character, which we don't have a reference to yet. So in the event graph on event construct, which is essentially a UI's begin play, we will get player character. We will cast to BP third person character. We will promote this to a variable, BP third person character. We can then go back to our get health bar percent function. We will get a reference to our character. We will get max health and get current health. Cool. Now, what we want to do is go ahead and divide our current health, I'll actually flip these around, by our max health, and plug that on in. So, now if we run the game, you can see we start with a full health bar, and as enemies come in and attack us, we start to lose our health. Eventually, we will die, and it's going to destroy the player. So that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. In the next video, we are going to be setting up endgame UI so that the player can return to the main menu, which we'll set up in another future video, or hit retry and spawn right back into the game. With that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and good luck with your games.